If this isn't your first time here, you know the retro review is usually 2 or 3 guys. But it's the holiday season, it's cold season. Brandon couldn't make it because his dad was under the weather. So, get well soon, Bobby. Um, this first Monday night movie mayhem retro review will be a solo, just me talking about one of my all-time favorite movies, Limitless. But before I roll that open and we review Limitless, let me remind you that there are limited first printings still available of my 68-page graphic novel, Everlasting Survivors, All Day Long, Volume 1, at Etsy.com. There are 2 covers, the Jeff Hicks cover and the Nick Crook cover. This is a limit 50 print run, and this was a 100 print run. When they sell out, these covers will not be reprinted. There are 2 new covers on the way in the new year. So after the open, I will break down the movie Limitless and tell you how I feel about it. As you may know from coming here before, I love taking notes. My first note is, I know your struggles to write, Eddie. So, as you know from before the open rolled, I have a 68-page graphic novel, Everlasting Survivors, Volume 1, All Day Long. Um, while I enjoy writing, while I love creating new things, new worlds, new characters, there are definitely times when it's a struggle to put the thoughts that are in your head down on paper, and so immediately I can relate and feel the pain of Eddie Mara, and the hits just keep on coming because his girlfriend Lindy breaks up with him, and notes here say breakups suck. um, and I so this movie Limitless is, it's interesting, it's unique in its own thing, but it has an element of comic books within it because we can hear Eddie's thoughts anytime we need to, and we hear him remember how that things fell apart in his prior marriage, and I was just like, man, I feel bad for this guy. But I couldn't help but laugh when Eddie says, "Ex brother-in-law, what's a more unnecessary relationship?" Or something of that nature. But it was just it's funny because he bumps into his ex brother-in-law. Um, Eddie looks disheveled, unkempt, and not altogether with it. So Vern, his ex brother-in-law, thinks that he might be homeless, and he's like, "No, I have a writing contract." And he tries to defend himself, but then he has to break down and tell him the truth. He says, "I haven't written one word of the book that I'm contracted to write." And this honesty, this pain, this reality is it's really what has me hooked on the film. And I think the honesty of Eddie's character is really what motivates Vern to give Eddie his first hit of NZT. He Vern lies to Eddie and tells him it's FDA approved and it's about to hit the market. At first, Eddie turns him down, but Vern says, "Don't be ungrateful. These things are $800 a pop." And so Eddie, with the line of the franchise, in the end, how much worse could it get? And Or, then again, maybe this is the line of the franchise. I was blind, but now I see. So that both of those are themes of the film, things that come back over and over again. The concept that how much worse could it get, and subsequently I was blind, but now I see. So literally my next note is man, I love this movie. And just generally overall the concept, because if you had 100% access to all the information in your mind, of course the first thing Eddie's gonna do is use that information to get laid. It cracks me up that's the first thing that he does with the 100% access to all the thoughts, all the memories in his mind. And so this movie's really good at making it clear when when Eddie is on NZT mind, or living his NZT life, and when it's regular life, because NZT life looks bright and everything pops like the Avengers, and regular life is all dark and dreary like Zack Snyder's Man of Steel. um, yeah, as soon as he's done with his conquest, Eddie says, "I know what I have to do, and finally I know how to do it." And he writes his book. He writes a lot of his book. The confidence that Eddie has when he delivers the pages to his publisher is so awesome. He says, "Just read 3 pages. If you read 3 pages and you don't like it, I'll give you back the advance." I was like, "What bravado does this guy have?" I love it. So Eddie goes to see Vern because, hey, life is on the upswing now that he's got NTT. But um, but Vern now knows that he's got Eddie in his back pocket. He makes him his gopher, and yeah, but Eddie's willing. He's like, this is what it takes for life to be good. But disregard that thought, because as soon as Eddie gets back to Vern's place, Vern had been taken out. Um, Eddie calls the police, but it takes him so long to get there that he searches Vern's whole place to find the hidden stash of NCT. The police think that Eddie killed his ex brother-in-law, even though he was the one who called them. Once Eddie gets out of the police station, he finishes his book in just 4 days. And I forgot to mention that Eddie did find the NZT before the police arrived, and he's able to, that's how he's able to finish the book in 4 days. He suddenly knows everything about everything, and Eddie's bored of writing and wants to gamble on the stock market, but in a down economy, banks aren't lending, so he goes to a Russian loan shark, and the dude is amusing as hell. Eddie, on his literal NZT high, meets up with his ex, and we all know that this is not the same Eddie. Lindy questions him, and his response is entertaining. He laughs and says he had a self-improvement month, which is, for all the improvements that he's got going on, that it wasn't just a month. There's definitely more to it. At this point, after he meets back up with Lindy, that's when the side effects begin to show. Time feels as though it's skipping, and they do a great job of demonstrating that with the visuals. Because of Eddie, his success with the stock markets, he has a big meeting with Carl Van Loon, who is Robert De Niro. Eddie says, I don't have delusions of grandeur. I have the recipe for it. He's just the man. Eddie is on top of the world. But the problem is, after the meeting, he has even more time skipping now. He's in a fight. It's a beautiful fight sequence, but it's just like things are happening all over the place. He's dancing. He's in a club. He's in a bedroom of a hotel. Like the skipping has gotten so bad that he lost 18 hours of his life, and after the time loss, Eddie feels ill and attempts to cancel his second meeting with Carl. However, Eddie can't cancel. He's told, uh, you can't have the flu right now. I know companies like that, and it's just ridiculous, the idea that you're not allowed to be sick. Sick's not an option, and it's like, it's crazy to think that you have that type of power. I mean, there's even stories of Vince McMahon saying that you're weak if you sneeze. So anyway, since Eddie is losing it, he decides to call people that Vern knew, and he sees that they to see if they can help, and he finds out 3 of them are dead and the rest are hospitalized. NZT might not be the blessing Eddie had thought after all. Eddie calls up his ex-wife, Melissa, Vern's sister, and he tells her that they need to meet. She's in such rough shape that he doesn't even recognize her when she is sitting in the restaurant where they were supposed to meet. She's she has to say his name before he even knows that she's there. The movie's so good at making it feel like what is happening is actually happening. Just really great execution, and so it's it's easy to feel badly for her. Like, she's, like I said, visibly in bad shape, and she's smart enough to realize that Eddie's on NZT, and that she knows that that's not going to work out too good for him. I love this note. I said Russian loan shark guy is back and even better than ever on NZT. Eddie is struggling. He collapses in Lindy's office, and he must tell her the truth. Remember back when Eddie called Vern's contacts. I forgot to mention that one of the people he called was on a park bench near him when he was making the calls, and that led to a really great chase scene. That's why I forgot to take the note, because it was fun to watch. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because that crazy guy is now chasing Lindy, because when Eddie passed out and had to tell her the truth, he told her where his stash was so he could get his power back, his brain powers, get rid of the withdrawals, basically. And so so when he sent her after them, and that's when the bad guy realized that she was in on it, and so he's now going after her. Lindy's smart, and so she tells 2 big guys that this crazy dude is after, but he doesn't care. He just straight up murders them right in front of her. Just takes them out. After the bad dude kills the two guys, Lindy calls Eddie on the phone asking for advice. She doesn't know what to do. He tells her, open the bag and take 1 pill. In 30 seconds, you'll think your way out. That's what it does. So I literally wrote, Lindy, she was blind, but now she can see. Eddie was right. Lindy does think her way out of this. But even though Eddie was able to save her life by telling her to take the NZT, Lindy realizes that she can't be a part of this this dark world, this crazy life, and so that's when we have the second breakup. She couldn't handle him when he was in Loserville, and she can't handle him when he's on the top. It's just, she's an interesting, complex character. After the breakup, Eddie has a conversation with, I don't know, some kind of chemist dude, and lays out all the stuff that needs to be done to make NZT, and the chemist guy tells him that this is going to take 2 years, and blah, 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 all this stuff, and Eddie's like, I'll give you $2 million if you get it done in 6 months. The idea of just money making things happen is stellar to me. After that, we see that Eddie's hotel room had been broken into because people are looking for his NZT. So he builds him, or not builds, but gets himself a bunker. He's like, nobody's gonna mess with me. It's just like it's just cool how far ahead he can think and all that. It's like, I'm just a big fan of this film. I've said it before and I'll say it again. This movie just loves the one-liners. Eddie has a line where he says, "There's not a whole lot $40 million can't solve." Much like the I was blind but now I can see thing. It's just it just hits with the one-liners. We meet a character who's going through a corporate merger with Robert De Niro's character. His name's Atwood. Atwood and Van Loon are trying to merge their two companies. But with this movie, we find out Atwood is sick and not going to get better because he's out of NZT. That's actually the reason why the person was chasing Lindy and Eddie, is because he worked for Atwood and was trying to get the NZT for him. After Atwood passes, that's how Eddie's able to turn him over to his side. If you remember when Eddie lost the 18 hours, that he had this big hotel room romp. Well, it turns out that the woman he was romping with turned up dead, and he's suspected. So his lawyer brings him in for a lineup, and he uses the great line of I'm just gonna make it one handsome blur in there, and so the eyewitness couldn't identify Eddie. We never actually find out in the film if he did do it, but it's because it's from his perspective, and when the time jumps happen, he just loses what happened. And so so Eddie isn't found out for that, but the law isn't Eddie's only problem. The Russian loan shark is still out to get any NZT Eddie has, even though Eddie is out. And so there's the loan shark, Victor, he doesn't know that Eddie's out of NZT, so him and his henchman dudes show up at Eddie's bunker and are shaking him down. They're beating him down. They're doing bad stuff. And during this time, Victor does the big bad villain monologue where he explains to Eddie he's been doing it all wrong. Victor, he melts down the NZT and he shoots it straight to his vein, because with NZT in your blood, it gets to your brain faster. And so in this moment of desperation, Eddie stabs Victor as his henchmen are throwing down, or shaking down his apartment. And that's when the nastiest thing happens, where Eddie laps up Victor's blood to get the NZT in his system, and he's able to outthink the other two henchmen, having one take the other one out, and being able to defeat the final guy. It was pretty freaking insane. Like, the funny thing is that because Eddie's able to talk his way out of everything, he convinces the police that the former tenant had mob ties, and that's why they got him. It was a mistaken identity type of thing. So after that, that's when so after he gets done with the mob fight, we have a pop-up that says 12 months later. And in that we see that Eddie is no longer known as Eddie. He's now Edward Morrow, and he's here for New York. So he's running for Senate, and he's doing really good. He's in the upper echelon. He's flying high. But Eddie's confronted by Carl Van Loon, Robert De Niro, who's now in the pharmaceutical business and not the financial business. Carl got Eddie's lab shut down. He's trying to buy off future Senator Mara, and Eddie, he's not fazed. He tells Carl, he says, he should be glad that Eddie isn't willing to work for him, because if he would, he would make he would be Carl's boss before you knew it. And he puts his hand on his chest and he's like, "Oh, you got a bad ticker." he's just so with it that he's able to outsmart Carl. And at the end, we see that he got back with Lindy, and yeah, everything worked out for Eddie in the end. He got the girl. He's on top. he's seeming to win, and that is definitely something I can get behind. Every time I watch Limitless, I'm always hooked. It's the idea of success is what gets me. The working for it, the striving for it, and that he had the help to unlock it, but the stuff that he unlocked was within him already, because that's something that Vern told him. It works even better if you're already smart. And so my final rating, my grade, my review of Limitless is a first time ever channel. I gave it 6 stars out of 5. I think this thing it's not a fail, it's not a pass, it's not fine, it's not good, it's not great, it is spectacular. So I have now introduced a 6 star to the star rating system. Limitless gets the 6 stars of approval, spectacular rating. I love it. I always enjoy watching it. Just the just the sheer excitement, the vibrance, the success of it all. And speaking of success, in the coming year, 2023, I'm going to do my best to make Everlasting Survivors a success with the relaunch. But before the relaunch and the 2 new covers, there are limited first printings still available for the Jeff Hicks 100 print run cover and the Nick Crook 50 run print cover, available at Etsy.com. Link in the description. If all goes well, this Wednesday night, I will not be reviewing Limitless, the TV show, alone, because as long as Brandon can make it, we will do it together, and we will go through the series, the 22 episode series of Limitless, for the next 22 weeks, 22 Wednesdays of 2023. Thank you for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you on Wednesday. Come back Friday when Josiah is back and we do our first ever draft for Alpha Entertainment Worldwide, the universe that came out of the Wednesday Night Wrestling Remix.